Commonwealth leaders, co-op leaders, homeschool community builders everywhere. We're going to talk for a little bit today about a tool that will help you with conflict resolution. In fact, the book is called Conflict Resolution, and I want to share with you the tools that come from the book. It's something that I have helped coach groups through many times, many times. But recently, in the last 2 weeks, 4 of my schools, I've coached them through this process. It just became aware to me that we needed to do a webinar on it or some kind of a video that would benefit everyone. So here we are. We're going to talk about this for just a minute. Actually, we're not going to get into the conversation itself. I just want to talk to you about the importance of what you do even before the conversation and how it can strengthen your community because it will strengthen your relationships. So one of the main things that you're trying not to do is damage. And let me just share with you some of the ways that you can damage relationships, and by thus damaging a relationship, you can add damage to your school. Okay, and those would be some of the 3 things that Tim Marks talks about in his conflict resolution book. And he talks about, I'm just going to list the first 3 for you. These are what happens, like I said, before the conversation even starts. Number 1 is to directly and immediately address the appropriate party instead of dwelling on hurts. If you don't do that, it will add to the damage of the relationship. Number 2, discuss concerns with the other party instead of gossiping. Again, if you don't do that, it will damage the relationship. And number 3 is to meet face-to-face to address issues and conflicts instead of relying on electronic communications. So let's go through each one of those really quickly as I try to help you see how important each one of them are. So the first one is directly and immediately addressing the appropriate party instead of dwelling on hurts. Now, most of us that lead homeschool co-ops and commonwealths are women. And we have a tendency, not all of us across the board, but I am going to generalize for a few minutes. We have a tendency to be good nurturers. Okay, that's a skill that a lot of women have a tendency to have. But while we're really good at nurturing our children and even oftentimes nurturing others, we can also nurture our hurts and our pain. Have you ever noticed that? When we get hurt, we are emotional beings. We do have a tendency to be emotional beings. And those emotions don't always stay stuffed inside. A lot of times they're just right out here on our shoulder, like right here, saying, hi, here's me. I'm hurt. I'm in pain. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. All of this negative stuff can come out just as much as over here, hey, I'm happy. Okay, I know I'm going too far with that right now. Okay, but having a little bit of fun with this. The point is that we sometimes get dramatic, and that stuff can be shared, and we can nurture our pain. And by nurturing our pain, we think that we are justifying ourselves in our frustration, in our anger, in our pain. And actually what we're doing is we are creating more pain, more hurt, and more frustration, not just for ourselves though now, but for everyone else that we spread it to. So when you go and let this fester, it's going to come out. It's going to come out more and more. Maybe not, you may not even be somebody who verbally processes with others. You may not talk to other people about the pain, but your pain is going to increase in size by holding it in or by dragging this out, this process, this timeline longer than it needs to be. And you're going to feel more and more justified in feeling your pain. So instead of dragging that around with you, and I'm literally thinking you're walking down the street or down the hallway in co-op, and you're dragging this heavy anvil with you that is just draining you of energy. And even if you think you're ignoring it and you think it's not a problem, it actually is. So let's just take care of it right away, immediately. Go to the person who you're having the conflict with or the misunderstanding or who's offended you or hurt you. And let's take care of it right away so that we can get on to bigger and better things, because let's face it, we got stuff to do. okay? We have great things to do with our lives. And we have people to help, and we have children to teach, and we have people to love. So let's move forward and make that happen. So immediately address the appropriate party, okay? B, discuss concerns with the other party instead of gossiping. Okay, so that kind of goes along, like all of these are interconnected, but I want to just warn you of what verbally processing your pain and your negative emotions can do to you, to your family, and to your community, because I've made the mistakes and I've seen them and I've seen what happens. Now, I'm going to give you an example of a time when I was hurt by a close friend who was a part of my community. I thought we'd made a decision about something. You know, I had an interpretation of this issue is here. And she thought, oh, I can take this by the horns and I can solve this. And so she went ahead and did something with it that shocked me and it upset me. And I had all this pain and frustration over it. And I was angry and I was sharing that at home. I was sharing it with my husband out loud where my kids could hear. I shared it, I think, even in front of my children. Some of them were a little bit older and they would probably listen to me. And I was in need of an audience, right? And I'm sure I shared it with others as well. What that actually did for my family was no good. It didn't help my children at all for me to share my pain with them. In fact, what happened was the next year they had her as a teacher. Two of my children were her students. And instead of being able to put the past aside, which I had done, I had finally had the conversation with her. The conversation went really, really well. We came back to where we were before, and in fact, even a better relationship where we understood each other better. And so things were fine between the two of us. But then when my children were in her class, they still saw her through these eyes, these colored lenses that I had given them. I had handed them purple glasses and I had said, put these on and see her through these glasses that I've given you. And they were not willing to be mentored by her. And it was such a waste. Such a waste. They were in this great class with this woman who was a great mentor, and I knew that, but they didn't know that. And I tried to address it. I tried to heal it, and it didn't work. So I'm just telling you, it can do damage to your family and to your children. It will also do damage to your community. If you go and spread this information, you don't know if you have the whole perspective. You probably don't have the whole story. You certainly don't know their side of it. And yet you're willing to go spread this around from person to person in your community. Doing that will only create damage, not only to your relationship with that other person, because it's always going to come back to her. She's going to hear about it, and then she's going to come to you, and now who's the victim, right? It's her, because now you've been spreading all of this negativity about her, and that doesn't get you anywhere. So, and not only does it do damage between your relationship, but it will also do damage in your community, because it will polarize your community. And once you've said stuff, you can't really take it back. I mean, you can go around to everyone. You can say, I messed up. I messed up. I shouldn't have said what I did. I was actually wrong. Once she and I had this conversation, I found out, blah, blah, blah. And you can do that, but it's a ton of work, and it may or may not actually resolve the problem. Okay, so discuss the concerns with the other party instead of gossiping. Now, if you have a community mentor or you have a conflict resolution mentor and you want to talk it through with them in order to be able to sometimes diffuse some of your negativity so you can have the conversation that needs to be had, or talk it through and try to get somebody else's perspective before you go into the conversation, that's okay. That's okay. But other than that, not with the general public, not with the other people in your community. It does not help anyone. It doesn't serve. Okay, let's talk about meeting face-to-face to address conflicts instead of relying on electronic communications. How many of you have ever misinterpreted a text or an email or anything? Okay, me. I'm totally, absolutely, 100% guilty of that one. I've had it happen several times where I've thought I knew the intent or the tone and I was wrong. And I think we've all had it happen. Do not send information about a conflict or an issue or a hurt over electronic communication. There's a couple of reasons for it. I'm going to share one that you might not think about. One is that you are probably not perfect at communicating through text or emails. I'm just guessing. If you are perfect, raise your hand. Oh, I can't raise my hand. Okay, because I'm not. I've said things that were misinterpreted, and the problem is that if you say something wrong in a text or a communication where you're trying to resolve this, if you say something negative or something that's interpreted as negative, once it's out there, and they can read it and reread it and reread it again. So basically what's going to happen is they're not going to get hurt by it once. They're going to get hurt by it over and over again. Okay, so that's one really important reason to not do this over electronic communication. The other one is the obvious, that it can be misinterpreted very easily because they can't hear your tone. Another reason is that you can't see them. When you're face-to-face with them and you say something and all of a sudden you see on their face that you have said something that's hurt them, you can immediately address it. You can immediately say, oh, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. I did not mean that to sound like it was your fault, or, you know, whatever the problem is. But with electronic communications, you won't know unless they tell you. So have the conversation face-to-face. I don't care how far you have to go. I have recently, within the last couple of years, I drove, I think it was 4 or 5 hours to handle a conflict face-to-face instead of even over the phone. I didn't even trust the phone. I wanted to see the face of the other party, and I wanted us to be able to have a good in-depth conversation where we weren't interrupted. So we can go to great lengths when the relationship is really important to us. Okay, so those are the 3 things I want to talk about really quick with you. This is just getting prepared to have the conversation, but you need to come at it with the right mindset and without doing damage before you even get there. So good luck to you all. You're amazing, leading your communities, supporting the homeschooling groups and families in your area. Please keep it up. And if there's anything that I can do or New Commonwealth Schools can do for you, we would love to help. Take care. God bless. Love you. Bye.